Welcome back, and as we start off this morning, we're going to reflect on, yet again, the challenges of the People's Democratic Party. When will they be resolved ahead of the 2027 general elections, and how will these intractable crises, leadership crisis, seemingly affect the party's chances at the 2027 general elections? And joining us this morning to have this conversation is Mr. Alex Te Adum. He's a former Attorney General of Benue State and member of the People's Democratic Party. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Good morning, Mr. Te Adum, and thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Good morning.
I'm going to start with the recent statement released by the FCT minister, which, you know, had it been it was the other way around, would have at least pointed to some, you know, peace on stability for the party, because many have ascribed his position in the party and his participation in the ruling government, you know, as one of the big problems, you know, responsible for the party's woes. But he has pulled out of reconciliation, you know, plans with the party and fingering certain governors as being part of the problem, Enugu State Governor to be precise, and the Oyo State Governor. What are your thoughts on this, in particular, you know, naming the Oyo State Governor? Because in the 2023 presidential elections, they were in the same camp that challenged the party's decision, you know, to field a northern candidate for the election. So what inside story do you have that may be responsible for this position expressed by the FCT minister?
Well, thank you very much. I think the FCT minister is overreaching himself because whatever agreement that the FCT minister had with some of his colleague governors has nothing to do with the PDP. Because the governors of the PDP do not hold any executive position in the PDP in terms of its leadership structures and organs. Even when they come together as the PDP Governors Forum, the essence of the PDP Governors Forum is an advisory council that helps the party in terms of, you know, advising it and supporting it, you know, to function, not like they play any significant role. So part of the challenges of the PDP is this working in silos or silo conspiracies by certain characters in the PDP, one of which is the Honorable Minister of the FCT, who has assumed a self-appointed leadership position in the PDP in such a way that his wishes and his desires for the PDP must be obeyed by virtually everybody, otherwise there will be no peace in the PDP. Now, with the specific reference to some of the things he mentioned, at no time was the PDP in a situation where one particular governor will select his friends and decide that this is the direction that the party must go, otherwise the party will have to go down on its knees. So I do not agree with the Honorable Minister of the FCT that he had an agreement with some certain governors in the PDP on what they had planned to do in their own camp, because the rest of us are not members of that conspiracy. We do not even belong to the group that he's talking about, but we are legitimate members of the PDP, and we are guided by the PDP constitution. Now, the specific thing he mentioned with reference to Governor Mba of Enugu State is very unfortunate, because the PDP constitution, as it's structured, ensures that vacancies at the level of any executive committee of the party is filled by someone from a particular part or zone of that country where that vacancy occurred. And in the case of the national secretary, which is the center of the problem, the constitution of the PDP is structured, is subject to conformity with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And if you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, under Section 137, subsection 1G, it provides that anybody who is a member of the public service or working in anything shall not hold any elective position except he resigns 30 days before the conduct of that election. Now, pursuant to that particular section of the Constitution, and in conformity with the requirement that all party constitutions must conform with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Article 48, sub-article 1 of the PDP Constitution provides that no member of the national executive, ward, zonal, state, local government shall hold dual positions in the party, i.e., the Senator Anyanwu, who was the national secretary of the PDP, desired to contest the Imo governorship election in 2024. Pursuant to that, he had to resign, because whether you resign officially by writing the letter of resignation or not, the Constitution under Section 48, subsection 1, provides that you are deemed to have resigned. So it becomes effectual once you have bought the form to participate in any elective position outside the one you hold in the party. You are deemed to have resigned your position. So pursuant to that, the guidelines for the conduct of any particular primary election in the PDP is tailored to meet the requirements of Section 48, subsection 1, and Section 137, subsection 1G of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So he was deemed to have resigned. He went and contested the election. He lost the election and then came back and said he was resuming back as the National Secretary of the PDP. In the meantime, while he resigned, the Southeast Caucus of the PDP, in whose position and capacity it was to nominate a replacement, had held the zonal Congress of the party or meeting of the party and nominated Ude Okoye as the replacement. That nomination was ratified by the National Working Committee of the party. It was ratified by the BOT. It was ratified by the Governors Forum of the PDP. It was subject to implementation at the National Executive Committee meeting of the PDP, which National Executive Committee meeting, for reasons which I don't know, because if you look at Section 31, subsection 4 of the PDP Constitution, it requires that the National Executive Committee of the party shall meet at least once every quarter of the year. And since 2023, after we lost the general election, the Damagun-led National Working Committee of the party has refused to convene the National Executive Committee meeting of the party, except in April last year, when he was practically bullied and forced to convene a meeting, where these decisions ought to have been ratified. But they were shifted to the next day, because even he himself is part of the problem, because the Constitution under Section 46, subsection 7, requires that where there's a death, resignation, or removal of the national chairman, the deputy national chairman from the part of the country, in this case part, and this issue of part is different from zone. From the part of the country where the incumbent national chairman comes from, would take over in the interim for a maximum period of 90 days. Because the assumption is that once the National Executive Committee meets, they will be able to ratify a replacement, from the zone where the incumbent national chairman who just resigned or was removed comes from.
Mr.
Damagun has refused to convene that National Executive Committee meeting for us to be able to nominate a new national chairman.
So hold on there, even if you acknowledge that, Mr. Wike's position is on an unacceptable self-appointed leadership role of the PDP, I'm glad that you have also pointed out some of the other internal leadership challenges that the acting national chairman and the other members of the working committee have been unable to resolve. And I'm wondering if our other guest has contrary views to what you have already put out. As we welcome him now to the program, Mr. Deyemi Saka is a policy public affairs analyst, independent intelligence analyst, and broadcast journalist. He joins us right here in our Lagos studio, and he's here also to weigh in on this matter. Welcome, Mr. Saka. How are you doing today?
Thank you. That's a pretty lady welcoming me, not the men. I think they're hungry with me.
So go ahead. Do you have contrary views to
Yeah, I do. Well, while a lot of people might frown at Wike, let's cast our mind back to 2015. When there was meant to be the PDP presidential primaries, and Wike insisted that the primaries, the event should be brought to Port Harcourt.
2019, actually.
2019, thank you, 2019. A lot of us were like, what's happening? And I was fortunate to sit down with one of the founding fathers of the PDP, and I said to him, what gave Wike the audacity they got to say that? And he said to me, Deyemi, he's the one carrying the party. So the question is this: PDP has been a pampered sport brat, if I could say that word. They were not used to going to the political trenches, fighting for anything. The military came, head over to Obasanjo, through a democratic process, Obasanjo, through Yar'Adua through Jonathan. So, but by 2015, when they were out of power, they were like a sheltered orphan that was not street smart and was not even ready to learn. You ask yourself, the PDP that was such a formidable party in 2015, that had to be, a congregation of political bigwigs and political parties to oust it from power, has lost 3 successive elections to poor management. 2023, what happened? It's in Section 7 of the PDP Constitution that there should be zoning. Whether we like it or not, you might want to argue that the zoning at the presidency itself was different. The outcome wasn't in tandem with the zoning within the PDP. But it doesn't make sense for natural justice to finish 7 years, 8 years of a northerner, and you expect to zone your party to the north. It is that unwritten arrangement. It's not constitutional, but it's that unwritten agreement and arrangement. And Wike said, and a lot of people said, zone. You throw it open. Atiku Abubakar got the ticket, and we're insisting on they brought some terms to the table. I would want to drift away to football. There was a time in Chelsea, there was a troublesome footballer, Diego Costa. Everybody felt he had a bad temper. But when Conte was there, for 13 games, he didn't pick his second yellow card. That is man management, which I'm probably going to question former Vice President Atiku. He didn't manage the crisis well. What were they asking? Are you step down? If I had stepped down, Wike had gotten the figures they had from Rivers State to the presidential to their result, probably PDP would be in power. So away from that, now you're having this leadership crisis, governors on your key states are defecting, and you said there's no problem. There is. There's a case in court about the national secretary. That one is still in dispute. PDP will tell you that it has been resolved. One will tell you that it's still in court. You look at the party, you see the umbrella is torn. I don't know the cobbler that is going to sew it. Because the way it's looking, PDP it's like probably at the mortuary, at the morgue, and probably we're just going to go for the interment very soon.
So let me ask you this. Is former Governor Wike and FCT Minister still the one carrying the party?
Well, the question I want to ask a lot of people is this. What have they done since 2023, even to match up with how Wike carried the party from 2015 to 2023? The PDP, at a point in time, they were even holding the rent at Wadata Plaza. A lot of them, even the governors on the platform of PDP, I'm trying to use a gentle word. I think I've been irresponsible when it even comes to funding the party.
Even now?
To date. Okay, look at the latest embarrassment, paying for ground rent. That was and PDP is the only party aside APC that has structures across the 6 states of the Federation. So are you expecting such a party to deregister itself, to go into coalition with mushrooms parties, with no sense of disrespect to those parties? It's not hard enough for some people.
I think let's take it back to our guest in Abuja. By the way, my name is Jeffrey. Just kidding. Let's talk to you. I think sometimes when we have this conversation, it feels like we're running around. Let's hit it on the head. The issues here. And I'm saying this to you, sir, to find a resolution. Atiku's ambition is a problem to the party. Wike's quote-unquote overbearing nature and his valid reason for some of his fight all the way from 2023 is also a problem of the party. Bala Mohammed's ambition, implicitly, is a problem of the party. Some control by some other governors is a problem of the party. So it looks like everybody is cherry-picking what is exactly the problem here. And I've heard all sides, everybody trying to blame, oh, you're working for the APC. This one is blaming you're working for the APC. So in your view, now that I've posited it as direct as it is, from Atiku to Bala, even Wike himself has presidential ambition. Sheyi Makinde, they all have presidential ambition. And then where do we resolve this problem from? And again, the fact that PDP, that used to be a formidable party, now became a party that was carried by one individual. The same problem we have with institutions. As I always say, APC has not been tested because they've not been out of power, at least for the last 10 years. So PDP now, I like the way our guest here put it. So now that we've pointed these problems out, where does the resolution start from? As for Umar Damagun, there's no leadership in the PDP.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. You see, any human society is only guided by law. Otherwise, anarchy will prevail. And that is why in every organization of 1, 2, 3, 4 human beings, there are rules and regulations that guide the conduct of members or guide the conduct of such a society. If there was no law in Nigeria, I dare tell you that the law of brute is power would have prevailed in Nigeria. So the central problem of the PDP, beyond the ambition of individuals, which is legitimate anyway, is the fact that the extant leadership of the party has not been able to enforce the constitution of the PDP as it applies to every member. See, those who say Wike carried the party in what sense? That Wike selected a certain members of the NWC and was funding them, funding their activities, not even the party, because we fund the party ourselves. The party is such that every member of the party at any particular level, contributes to the management of the party, either by holding meetings or sponsoring meetings. And I can't remember, I am from Benue State, and I have contested for the House of Reps election under the PDP. I joined the PDP since 1998. Wike has not funded my activities or my elections in the PDP ever since I joined the party. So when you say Wike was the one funding the party how? That he took money and gave to certain members of the NWC, constitutes to funding the Benue chapter of the party, and the Way East chapter of the party, my ward chapter of the party, was not funded by Wike or anybody. I bought the form to contest for the gubernatorial election in PDP, and I paid 13 million naira, 10 million naira for the purchase of the form, about 3 million naira for processing of form and all of that. Wike didn't give me the money. So when people say that Wike funded the party, he funded the party how? At any particular time, each member of the party is obliged to contribute. There are several elected members of the party who contribute. The only reason is that they don't shout. All the governors of the party contribute to the funding of the party. The only reason is that they don't shout. So it is the inability of the current extant NWC to enforce the constitution of the party that has brought us to where we are. Let me tell you something. Now, people who say that Article 7, Sub-Article 3C, which talks about equity and rotation of political and appointed offices in the PDP. Now, that is an objective. And if you look at the fundamental objectives of the Constitution of Nigeria, the judiciary will tell you that it is not justiciable, it's not enforceable. Now, that particular thing is an aspiration. And since the creation of the PDP, there has been no absolute zoning of political offices at any particular time. In 1999, the first national convention of the PDP, where Olusegun Obasanjo won the presidential ticket of the PDP, Abubakar Rimi from the north also contested the election. Now, in 2003, even when President Olusegun Obasanjo was an incumbent president, Barnabas Gamade, who was a national chairman of the party, Abubakar Rimi, and several other northerners contested the election with him. You see, when you talk about zoning, it is a guide, an internal guide for members of the party to say, look, we want a situation where we'll put our best foot forward in this particular region. Every delegate who is coming to this convention, that is the focus of the PDP. In 2007, when Obasanjo's tenure was coming to an end, Obasanjo was in the presidency for 8 years. The leading candidate in the PDP at that particular time was Peter Odili. He would have won that convention when we came to Abuja here, except that he was stopped by Obasanjo. Nobody said that Peter Odili was from the south, so he could not contest for the PDP presidential ticket. In 2011, when the PDP ticket, when Jonathan, because of the doctrine of necessity, was made to succeed Yaradua, in 2011, Jonathan even committed himself to an agreement to do only one term. By 2015, when they said the presidency was zoned to the north, so to speak, in the PDP, when we came to Abuja here, what did the leadership of the party do? They printed one single form that informed the implosion in the PDP. In 2019 was the only time where presidential aspirants from a particular part of the country, gathered in Port Harcourt without any southerner to contest for the presidential ticket. In 2023, the party did not even guide us as to zoning. It said anybody who has bought a presidential form can contest election. When you talk, people will say when they were in a meeting trying to do zoning, then somebody went and bought presidential ticket. That's not true.
Well, I have to come in now because of time, so we can have a good back and forth as well in the studio. I'll come back to you, maybe to ask if the PDP has learned its lesson, because that's one major reason that the PDP, rather, is having a lot of challenges right now. Nyesom Wike quotes that particular zoning issue as one of the reasons that he said, you know what, I'm not going to support the candidature of Atiku Abubakar, and we've seen where that has led us to today. So maybe the PDP has not learned its lesson, or it's still forging ahead. We'll come back to find out. But Mr. Saka, you mentioned the ground rent issue, and isn't that reason to back the fact that he said that Mr. Wike was not supporting or was not funding the whole party. He was just funding selected executive members, and I'll explain why. If ground rent had not been paid for 10, some other places that were closed for over 10, 15, 20 years, if he was funding the party, wouldn't he have sorted the ground rent issue as well?
I don't like when people want to address the issue and they're either being economical with the truth or shying away from the truth. There was a time PDP was indebted to its landlord. Who cleared that rent? Or who intervened? Who stepped in? And when you say PDP was funding some individuals, I want to ask you a question. It was mentioning he bought his tickets and everything. When we're talking about funding PDP or carrying PDP, we're talking about the national structure. PDP doesn't have problem at the local government level, at the ward level, at the state level. The problem everybody is talking about and we're looking at and evaluating is the central organization of the PDP. And that was what Wike has been bearing and carrying the burden since 2015. But away from, one say carrying as when it comes to spending, the only strongest or the strongest voice of opposition from the PDP was Wike from 2015 to 2023. Before then, it was Fayose. So when you look at it, you cannot tell me a man that sacrificed a lot for the party, his reputation had been on the line for so long, even he's been crucified and convicted in many courts of public opinion for the sake of the party. And you want to tell me such a person will not have a say in the party? I'm not a fan of Wike. In fact, when it comes to the issue of River State and the sinful bad thing, I'm never a fan of him. But PDP, like you said, have not learned its lessons. They haven't. Because when you have this crisis, you don't have. It's a time for you to drop your ego and tell ourselves the truth. Let us resolve. Okay, there should be someone that should be able to sacrifice not as much as Jesus Christ, but to just say, okay, fine, I'm sacrificing my ego, I'm putting my ego ambitions aside. Let us get this party back on track. Because if PDP doesn't have, they've lost 2 states. They've lost a state. 2 are in the wings of living. 2 more key states. They want to go into an election, and like you're saying, it's not in the constitution, zoning or no zoning. But I'm still thinking how to convince myself how a governor, Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, thinks it makes political sense. It has his right to contest, but to run against an incumbent southern presidency who has just 1 term left. I've sat down with politicians, I know how they reason. Across party lines, you see people tell you that it's better for them to stick and reach 4 more years of the incumbents, and they know they are so sure after 4 years it's our turn, than take a risk to someone that could just, renege and flip. Jonathan?
I think there's no doubt as to how much Wike may have contributed to the party if you follow through the trajectory. In fact, one of the things he uses as bait is to the fact that I brought a governor, all the members of the assembly. That's how politicians bring numbers.
And that's how the UX structure.
Yeah, so he said, I brought this. Well, he has also brought them down in that sense, because he's a fighter to the end. But don't you think Wike's current position is a bit of a contradiction, and that is feeling the mutual aggressive suspicion? On one hand, he's working with the APC, and some of his actions when he's angry looks like. Do you think Wike is really planning to build the PDP ahead of 2027? That's a straight question.
I saw his press when he said he's rebuilding PDP, but I'm bold to say he's not. He's a key factor and a key actor in this dismembering of PDP, whether we like it or not. Now, the question is this. Why has it been difficult for the leadership of the PDP to sanction Wike?
That's a big question.
So, I cannot feed you, I cannot clothe you, and you now tell me you want to punish me. Who kept you alive? If I deprive you of your food, and you either be roaming the streets as a destitute, or die of starvation. I followed through a previous encounter of a chieftain of the PDP, Segun Shomi, and he said it was ridiculous that at a party, probably in one of the southeastern states, the leadership ratified the other secretary as the secretary of the party. When they came to Wadata Plaza, that had Senator Samayamu, the ratified secretary was chased out of office. That's Ojoke. And the BOT that sat in the meeting that ratified him is in another state, where it was there when the guy was being chased out, and Samayamu presided or sat as the secretary. So you ask yourself, why the inconsistency in disciplinary measures or keeping to the rules of the party? And sometimes, Obasanjo came with the carrot and stick approach when it comes to fighting insecurity. It's not always cast in stone, especially when there's crisis. You have to look at, okay, conflict resolution, you adopt a lot of measures to just resolve this thing. It doesn't satisfy anybody's ego. Yes, like you rightly said, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's ambition is tearing the party apart. Add it to Seyi Makinde's own. Add it to Wike double-faced or double agent's rule.
Bala Mohammed.
And Bala Mohammed's ambition. You ask yourself, does it add up? So some of us, I felt, and the reason PDP is facing this crisis is the actions of opposition figures that made it look like a north-south thing. They were quick to jump the gun, and it's not. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policy doesn't favor a region more than the other. We're all feeling the bite of it. You cannot start making it look like if it's your region that is the victim, and the other ones are the one, messing out the punishments on you. That's another major factor working against the PDP. And you look at these characters, they've left PDP to APC, back to PDP. Now you are in SDP and ADC. El-Rufai started his political journey from PDP. Atiku Abubakar, the vice president of a party, you left your party to go to another party. Let's say Obasanjo pushed you out of the party and everything. There are people that have been dealt with the party, and they stayed.
So speaking of what else doesn't add up, it would be the 2 notifications for the all-important NEC meeting that should move the party forward. That's coming from 2 sources. One signed by Senator Samuel Anyanwu, the embattled National Secretary, and another signed by Honorable Debo Ologunagba, the National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, which is supposed to hold today. We don't know whether it will hold. But we must anchor at this point, gentlemen. And thank you for your time on the program. We've been talking with Mr. Alex Te Adum, the former Attorney General of Benue State and member of the PDP, who joined us from our Abuja studio. And of course, Mr. Deyemi Saka is a public policy affairs analyst, independent intelligence analyst, and broadcast journalist. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen.
Thanks for having me on. My apologies again for coming in late.
It's okay. But you came at all, and thank you for your contributions. There's more to come on the program. Don't forget that today is Children's Day, and we have dedicated performances just for the children today on the program. Besides that, there is also another important subject matter which will come after this break. That's insecurity in Taraba State. So stay with us. Your perfect morning starter. We'll be right back.